All right, good morning, everyone, and welcome. My name is Valerie Toe, and I am the director at Health Research BC of our research competitions team. I'm very pleased to welcome all of you to this session, and I will be your facilitator for this morning. Before we begin, a quick note about the format. The presentation, this session, the first set will be about 30 minutes. There will be 15 minutes for the presentation and about 10 minutes for the question and answer period. As a facilitator, I'll be keeping a close eye on the time just to ensure that we have about 10 minutes for the question and answer period before the second presentation begins. Thank you, everyone, in advance for helping us stay on schedule. Now, I'm pleased to introduce our first team and their presentation, Preparing Patient Partners for Successful and Meaningful Engagement in Scientific Research. Please welcome Melanie Talson, who is a medical anthropologist with a background in qualitative research, patient engagement, cooperative inquiry, and participatory action research. In her role as patient partnership and capacity building manager, she is thrilled to support patient engagement in research as the CanSolved CKD patient partnership and capacity building manager. Believing in critical importance of conducting research with people, not on people, Melanie maintains a strong emphasis on research relationship building, value the expertise patients bring to the research, and recognizing patient partners as co-creators of knowledge every step of the way. Let's welcome Melanie.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you. So I would just like to first acknowledge the patient partners who participated in this meeting that we will be describing. And I just wanted to introduce myself. Thank you for the lovely introduction. But I am just coming today to speak to this meeting that we prepared patient partners to be meaningful participants in, and just sharing what process we undertook to ensure that everyone could collaborate and participate in a very comprehensive and meaningful way. And with that, I wanted to also acknowledge that I'm speaking on behalf of our team, and one of our patient partners was going to be co-presenting with me today, but unfortunately had a change in schedule and was unable to co-present with me. So I'll just be speaking on behalf of all the patient partners as well. So the meeting that I was referring to is an International Society of Nephrology consensus meeting that happened in 2024. And I'm part of the CanSolved CKD Research Network, which is a SPOR, CIHR SPOR funded research network. And we were invited to bring along patient partners and prepare them to participate in this consensus-driven meeting. And the meeting was very scientific. So there was a real emphasis on being able to participate meaningfully in a very heavy scientific meeting. And I'll just mention that the title of the consensus meeting was called Changing Paradigms of Studies in Kidney Disease, and it was related to key areas related to patient-reported outcome measures, biomarker targets and thresholds, alternative trial designs, and hierarchical composite endpoints. So a lot of that is pretty technical language, and those are the topics. So we had to kind of dive right into those topics that I'm not familiar with. Patient partners may have some familiarity with just through their own lived experience, but a lot of it was very technical. And the participants in this consensus meeting were coming from all over the world, representing researchers, scientists, statisticians, policymakers, industry, and then, of course, patient partners. So we had some work to do to just ensure that everybody could participate kind of with this same baseline knowledge, acknowledging that the lived experience has its own level of expertise. So this is the group of the entire meeting participants, not just the patient partners. We had 6 patient partners. So as we went through the process of thinking about how to prepare meaningfully for this, we wanted to acknowledge that there are some risks with if we do not acknowledge the preparation that's required and take the time to consider this as a process. So patient engagement in research prioritization and consensus building and it's increasingly expected from funding bodies, and we're recognizing obviously the critical importance of having that patient engagement at these meetings, but how to do it in a way that isn't just tokenistic and that actually is meaningful. So just having the participation alone does not guarantee that influence and that level of engagement. So we wanted to just ensure that we were supporting patient partners to be meaningfully engaged. So some of those risks that we identified are related to those topics here, as I've just placed on the slide. And one of the things too to consider is that the scientific prioritization and consensus meetings often involve that technical language, but also implicit hierarchies and also unfamiliar decision-making frameworks. So how is the meeting actually conducted? How are participants involved in the dialogue and the conversation and the breakout groups? How is the consensus achieved and that kind of thing? So our objective was to design a process that supported that equitable and informed participation. So here is the team. Those are the 6 patient partners and some other researchers there in the picture. And so we really looked at our engagement as partnership and grounded our approach in our 6 R's. So CanSelf CKD Network, along with the Patient Governance Council and the Indigenous Peoples Engagement and Research Council, has developed the 6 R's, which are kind of the guiding principles of how the network runs its whole operations. It's the heart of the network. And those 6 R's are just listed here. So how those 6 R's, respect, relevance, reciprocity, real relationships, and responsibility, were embedded and grounded in how we conducted this work. And the preparation was also conceptualized as both informational and relational. So we followed a deliberative democracy theory, emphasizing inclusive, informed, and respectful dialogue. I have my notes on paper and my notes on the screen. Feeling a little conflicted here. Okay. Did I just move one forward? I think so. Yeah. So, following we're like really thinking about this with methodological rigor rather than accommodation. We wanted to look at how to build this confidence in terms of recognizing that the lived experience is the expertise. So, how you know is based on what you know is based on how you've learned it. How you've learned it is based on your lived experience, and really highlighting that is expertise and building that confidence for the patient partners to feel that they can share their views and perspectives with integrity and expertise and autonomy and empowerment. And so we also equipped the patients with sufficient contextual knowledge. So looking at how the meeting is run, the process, we invited patient partners who had participated in the prior ISN consensus meeting from, I think, 3 years previously to come and share their experience and what it was like. And we also invited Dr. Levin to some of the preparatory meetings to provide that contextual knowledge of how the meeting is run, in addition to the scientific knowledge. What else? Okay, so in the guiding principles for our meaningful participation, we wanted to highlight that there's equity of voice. So participation should not be constrained by the familiarity with scientific discourse. It's also obviously, as we know, the voice of the lived experiences has the same equity, and that equity of voice was highlighted throughout our preparation, as well as the transparency of the process. So the consensus meeting structure and processes were clearly explained, as well as psychological safety. So questions and dissent were normalized. We could have discussions that showed opposing views, different perspectives, and all of that was appreciated and valued. And also it's worth noting that in the literature, psychological safety is foundational to speaking across hierarchy. So sometimes in these meetings, there may be these implicit hierarchies, and this is an opportunity to generate that psychological safety in order to reduce those barriers of hierarchy. And also providing this clarity without oversimplification. So all of the materials that we prepared were accessible while also preserving scientific integrity. And so these principles shaped both the preparation activities as well as the meeting design. So preparation really begins before the materials are sent out. The recruitment strategies we undertook to recruit patient partners included recognizing diversity and inclusion principles related to the geographic location, age, gender, lived experience, and other diversity principles. And we provided clear role descriptions, time commitments, and expectations regarding participation. And we prioritized the diversity of lived experience and ensured compensation aligned with institutional guidance. So our CanSelf-CKD network has a compensation that provides honoraria for time spent, and so we ensured that that was transparent and paid. Early communication also emphasized that experiential knowledge and lived experience was valued equally alongside the clinical and methodological expertise. So one of the big undertakings that we did to prepare was developing a plain language summary of the research topics. So when I mentioned those pretty heavy scientific topics at the beginning, there was also a lot of supplemental journal articles and readings to provide that background knowledge for all of the participants in the meeting. And so our team at CanSelf-CKD Network developed plain language summaries for those journal articles and produced them all into this handbook. And that's just the title. And included in that were glossaries of terms, and we asked the patient partners too what they would like to see in that document, and we developed this handbook. And it turned out that everybody at the meeting wanted that handbook. So not just the patient partners, but the scientific experts also found it quite useful. So that just goes to show that, the statistician may not be the expert in biomarkers or PROMs, for example. So this really is just highlighting the knowledge translation principles and health literacy concepts. And the goal here was that there was sufficient orientation to the topics, but not necessarily technical mastery, but just enough to feel that they could participate and grasp the concepts at a level that enabled their equitable participation. So taking time to build relationships and trust, to feel comfort and support as a team. So this is the team building. Initially, our very first meeting, preparatory meeting, was just bringing the patient partners together with some of our operations team members just to meet, just to get to know one another, not really even talking too much about the upcoming meeting, just relationship building. And once we kind of had that sensation of comfort and trust, then it allowed for more of the technical pieces to emerge. So over the course of 3 months, we conducted a structured pre-meeting orientation process. The sessions reviewed the meeting agenda, preparatory readings, those plain language summaries, prioritization criteria. So for the consensus meeting, there was also the criteria for how the research consensus would be drawn. So just looking at the process of how the meeting would go. Participants engaged in mock presentations, discussions about the key breakout topics, and importantly, we also discussed power dynamics and encouraged patient partners to identify areas of uncertainty or questions or any concerns, and just help to kind of reduce any anxiety and increase readiness to contribute. Okay, so patients, so this is more around the kind of like structural and relational aspects of preparing a group of patient partners like this to participate and feel supported for that meaningful engagement. And some of it is just really structural. So for instance, patients were provided with a designated contact person for follow-up questions. We conducted check-in communication prior to the meeting and ensured logistical and technical support related to travel and booking travel dialysis, for example, and medical contacts as participants were traveling into Vancouver from all over the world. Including a WhatsApp group chat just for all the patient partners to be able to connect as they landed, and with some of our operations team members as well. So just to have that point of contact and that synergy amongst the group, to feel supported. And what else? And also recognizing that the conversations and the discussion topics that would happen at the meeting would intersect with patients' lived experience, and how to kind of provide like debriefing and an opportunity to discuss those things if they came up, or if there was anything that needed a little bit of time to explore, discuss, and debrief. Okay, so one of the other key aspects to supporting this engagement was our director, Dr. Adir Levin, also she did an introductory address at the meeting, and she was able to describe patient-oriented research in the opening presentation. Also, she introduced the patient partners in attendance. And she also described the rigorous level of preparation that the patient partners were involved in for their participation. So this was just a screenshot of the slide that she showed. And so I think that kind of set the baseline for all the participants to know that, okay, these patient partners are familiar with the material, familiar with the plan and structure. And I'm getting a wave. Okay, just one more minute, I'll finish up here. So they were all familiar with, they had this rigorous preparation. And I think that was really helpful. And so just the outcomes are that their patients actively contributed to discussions and challenged assumptions. Researchers reported deeper reflection on relevance and feasibility. Deliberations incorporated experiential considerations that may otherwise have been overlooked, and participants described the process as respectful and credible. Here's just a couple of quotes. So just thinking about how, patients, there's a real person at the end of the data or at the beginning of the data. And a patient partner, just describing how they were able to participate meaningfully. So the lessons learned: preparation requires resources, but increases effectiveness, and dedicated time, but it also improves efficiency and depth of discussion. Clarity benefits all participants, not only the patients. Equity must be intentionally designed, so it does not emerge organically. And relational trust is foundational to meaningful engagement. And reframing preparation as a methodology. So preparation strengthens rigor, transparency, credibility, and meaning for researchers, policymakers, but it should be budgeted and scheduled and evaluated. And just in summary, meaningful patient participation does not occur spontaneously within technical environments, but it's enabled through deliberate preparation, structural adaptation, and relational investment. So we propose that preparation be recognized as a core component of rigorous and equitable research participation for patient engagement in research. And that is all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Melanie. That was really great. And so as you've heard, meaningful engagement really requires intentional time to set up and ensure that everybody has a positive experience. So I now open the floor for questions and answers. If anyone has a questions, if you can raise your hand, I will come over with the mic just so that those online can also hear the question as well.
And maybe I'll just mention too that we do have one of our caregiver participants here in the audience too, who can offer her perspective as a patient partner participant or person with lived experience participant too. Okay. Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for the presentation. It's really nice. I have a question. Is there any challenges or difficulty in recruiting participants, patient participants?
That's a great question. Yeah, patient partner recruitment is on the top of mind always. And for this particular meeting, we already had a pretty solid pool of patient participants and patient partners who've been involved in other research with our research network. So we were able to kind of call on those people who had the relevant experience and ask if they'd be willing and available to participate. But patient partner recruitment is definitely a hot topic, and tied to that is retention as well. Yeah, it can be very difficult, not impossible, but there's challenges, especially if you're drawing on or kind of asking the same patient partners all the time. It's a lot of, yeah.
So from the front row to the very, very back row. Hi.
Oh,
this
hi.
is on, right? Hi. That was tremendous, and thank you so much for everything you've done. I was struck by a comment you made about midway through about the importance of the difference between oversimplification and having concepts that are sufficiently understandable. And then I was captivated by the handbook that you created. Is the handbook, the plain language summary, is that available as a resource to others, or is it just right now for your project? Because I think that is a model for things that could be used definitely by other projects and other teams. So thanks again for a great talk.
Yeah, thank you very much. It is available actually on the ISN Toolkit website. There's a specific branch of the ISN website that has their toolkits, and it is available there. And we have had other research networks reach out to us and adapt the same kind of use it as a model. Exactly. Yeah. Thank you.
Hi there. I'm a patient partner, and I'm always wondering about how much you're compensating the people with lived experience. And I know there's like some sort of general models and stuff like that. And so what are you paying? And also there's like limits if you're on disability of like how much you can make and things like that. And if patient partners can negotiate for their compensation. I've been able to do that once, and it was super empowering. And then what other kind of say non-honorarium benefits for folks? I've participated in some Indigenous research, and afterwards we had like a meal, and we all got together, all the participants, and it was we got to have like a meal and be all together. So just wondering about that stuff. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, so the honorarium that we provide is $50 per hour, and that seems to be on the higher end of what is happening in the research networks across Canada. But we have just determined that that's our set kind of policy. You're right, the tax implications are an issue, and that's something that keeps coming up amongst patient partners that we work with, and how to kind of avoid that. People who are receiving a pension or for other reasons, it bumps up your income, and then So one of the strategies that I know is done through some research projects, and PIs are able to do this through their institutions, is to provide gift cards. So that's sort of one workaround. I think UBC is not allowing us to do that through our means, but in terms of other honorary sort of compensation kind of perks, I want to say, is we do usually have shared meals. We provide a per diem for food, travel. If a patient partner requires a caregiver to travel with them, we provide the funds for that caregiver to travel and attend and participate if they so wish, or not, even if it's just to be available to them as needed. And unless I'm forgetting anything else, Jocelyn, is there anything else that comes to mind?
I was just going to mention
Here. Come. This is Jocelyn Jones.
participated. Sure. I was just going to add to, for preparation times in advance for the meetings as well, we provided compensation because, you're just having a lot of different conversations leading up to it as well. And then for folks that are traveling, so for travel days over 4 hours, that is your time as well. So we provide honoraria for the day. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for all your great questions so far. We have time for one more question, if anyone. Okay.
I just want to say that one other thing that this group did was, it's on the screen right now, so, can't hear me. I was just going to highlight, and you probably mentioned this, Melanie, but all of the patient partners then were active co-authors on this publication. So, very important.
All right, so maybe I'll come over here, which I saw Cindy with a question.
I can see the time. Thank you. I'm curious about the presentations that the patient partners did. You mentioned prior to the conference, or as part of the conference. Did they share their experience, their lived experience? Is that what that was focused on?
Yes, there was sort of an introductory presentation that they each gave at the outset of the consensus meeting that included not just a description of their kind of journey of where they're at in their health and their lived experience, but also their key priorities. So they were also able to touch back to the purpose of the meeting and what they were there to really help shape and share and learn from. So that sort of building back that relevance. It also, I think, it highlighted their keenness and their involvement and their ability to participate meaningfully. So, yeah. But we did prepare those, we practiced those presentations at our preparatory meetings and got feedback. Everybody had an opportunity to weigh in and discuss how maybe their research priority area could be expanded upon or drawn back to their own lived experience, or why is that important to you, that kind of thing. So to really build that sort of strength within their own presentation. Yeah, thanks.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for your questions, and thank you, Melanie and Jocelyn, for your presentation and questions and answer period. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Now.